All right. So I want to start off at probably where I was thinking about ending,
Oh, okay,
which
perfect.
is you have an event coming up
Mm,
and it looks super cool.
it's so
Super, super
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what inspired you to put the event on? And is this
Well,
a regular thing?
yeah. So my husband and I have been running events for 11 years now. And over the years, we've run trips all over the world. I mean, African safaris, trips to Machu Picchu, all of these different destination experiences. But one thing that I always really wanted was to be able to bring the larger community, maybe people who'd been traveling with us to different locations and had these these one off peak experiences. It was an opportunity where we could be like everybody in our tribe and everyone that our tribe or people that are attracted to our tribe might want to like get together and have this big, massive meeting of the minds, meeting of the hearts. We could put that on, we could put that on the map and make that happen. So I think the initial inspiration was really like, let's be able to have this event once a year where people that, have been with us in other aspects can come and meet each other. And then what ended up happening is that like so many new people came and we
Mm,
realized that it was actually just an awesome opportunity for people who maybe had been, looking around our community or just wanting to travel or wanting to connect deeper with beautiful humans. It was an opportunity for them to come like get mixed into the whole scene. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was just like one of those things where I felt like I took a little bit of all of the events I loved. Like there was a little bit of Burning Man, like a little bit of Coachella, a little bit of plant medicine. It was like a little bit of all these things that you love and then just put it together in one event where you could just celebrate all the beautiful things you love about life.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like, it's refreshing because I think so many of the times we go to events, it's to work on ourselves, right? We're like,
Mm-hmm.
we got to go fix ourselves. We got to go like do something hard. And I was like, what if we have an event that we can just go and actually just like enjoy ourselves and love one another and listen to great music, eat great food. And then maybe you have a super deep transformation as a byproduct, but you're coming in more just like to celebrate.
Yeah. I mean that's kind of like what happens for me at Burning Man.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna have the most fun possible,
Yes.
and by the end of it, some transformation occurred. It may be obvious. It may not be obvious. Uh, you know, there might be a difficulty that comes up that I find in these types of situations. Uh, it's actually easier to integrate
Yeah.
an experience. What it sounds like what you're putting together because it's happening in community,
Mm,
and much of what happens needs to be done in community. Whereas, going down to the jungle and drinking ayahuasca sometimes can be difficult to integrate because it was such a personal experience
hmm.
in isolation in a way.
Yeah.
So that can offer more depth, but at the same time, the integration can be hard, and it
Mm.
doesn't have to be hard, right?
I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, we could call this podcast, It Doesn't Have to Be Hard. I feel like
Right.
that's like the perfect thing because I feel like we've almost got, especially in the wellness world and the spiritual world and the fitness world, all of these different, these universes, we kind of get a little addicted to like it being hard and always having to be in the struggle. And although that's so beautiful and we want to test ourselves and we want to, have those deep, meaningful, transformative experiences, we also need to remember that the point we're doing all that work is so that we can actually create more joy, more love, more gratitude, more purpose, more presence in our lives and in our communities. And, if we don't actually put that stuff on the map, put that on the calendar, then you tend to always just be kind of chasing that next transformation.
Yeah. What me and some of the guys on my team we always say it all leads back to the dance floor.
Yes.
Someone's like doing transformation for transformation sake, and I'm like, or like if you're not dancing,
Yes.
like you screwed up.
Ah, thank you. I just know I love it. And I feel like I'm here to actually like help bring that conversation back in because, it's just life in general. There's a lot of pressure on us as individuals right now. There's a lot of energy in the field that is pressure on our physical body, on our emotional body, on our spiritual body. And if we don't actually just put ourselves in a place sometimes where we can decompress that or depressurize ourselves and just kind of come back to the flow and the nature of who we really are, then what is the point? Like you said, like, where's the dance floor in all of this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what got you to a place where you're putting on events? Or was there some type of transformation for yourself that inspired you?
I feel like, I always joke that I feel like I started putting on events because I had an Italian grandma who entertained everybody. So like I grew up in this place where my grandma literally like I feel like she was like the original festival runner.
Yeah.
She was like, creating these amazing dinners, and she had this club called the Sons of Italy that she ran. And it was just like, I feel like it came into it naturally in my lineage. And I just saw the incredible community that they fostered and the joy that my grandparents held when people came into their world and got to start to be part of these experiences. And so I think it's kind of funny because you think it'd be like, well, I was in the jungle and I had this ayahuasca experience. But like, if I really distill it down, I'm like, I think it was my nanny. I think my nanny showed me how important it was to come together, to eat good food, to sing and dance, and to celebrate your life. And so I really I give it all to her.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, what's the event look like overall?
So this is the third time that we've run this particular event. It's called Bee Fest. The first year we ran it in the Redwoods in Northern California. Last year, which was in 2018, and then we had to take a few gap years because of all the things that happened. And then last year we had it in Zion National Park, or just outside the park, which was beautiful.
Nice.
And this year we're bringing it down to Mexico, to Riviera Maya. So yeah, we just we wanted to switch up the energy, switch up the vibe, and I always say like Mother Nature's the star of the show. So it's all about like really going to beautiful places where Mother Nature is so present. And Playa Riviera is so amazing because you've got the jungle and the ocean, and it's like, it's all right there. It's all coming together. So the idea is that it's all of the wellness things you would want, right? It's the breath work, and it's the yoga, and it's all of those beautiful things that we all know and love, and we love to participate, but it's all kind of held in this container of kind of a festival energy. So at the end of the evening, we have these theme parties that are Burning Man-esque, right? And they'll be like, last year, I want to say the final night was alien invasion. So you came as your extraterrestrial self. So, you have these really fun themes that everybody kind of gets behind, and it brings in that festival energy. And then we wrap it all with live music and really beautiful performances. So it's like the best of all, like I said, all of the things that we've loved and had amazing experiences around the world doing in one event.
Yeah. What's you have Perenge?
Yeah, Parangi is coming.
Parangi?
Yeah, I know. It's a tough one. He's going to be our headliner. DJ Drez is another incredible musician. He works a lot with like Kirtan mantra and really amazing mixes. And his wife Marty will be singing along, so they'll do some like really cool live DJ sets and vocals. And actually, she teaches yoga, so they'll be doing that during some of the the yoga sessions as well. I'm a musician, so I'll be performing as well. And yeah, we just try to mix in like the energy of the music and the energy of the sound current, because it's just like, in the end, that's what we are. We're vibration, we're sound. So it felt like to us, like bringing in music and bringing in that frequency was just the perfect way to bookend every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the people that are coming to this, like, what's their motivation?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are just, they see it. Honestly, they see the event, and I swear 9 times out of 10 people just see the event and they're just like, I need to be there. And they're not even really sure why. It just feels like this gravitational pull towards it. And they, for whatever reason, like, it might be the yoga, it might be Purangi, it might be like whatever little thing that kind of gives them permission to say yes. But it's usually predicated on just like this gut feeling of like, these are my people and I need to be with them. And I think that's what I hear more often than not. So like, for listeners out there that are like, I don't even know about this community, I've never heard of it, but I feel like I should be there. This is your jam. This is the thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what? How many people are going to be there?
So this this event, I think, will probably be somewhere between 50 and 100 people. So it's not massive, but it's also, a little bit larger than your traditional wellness retreat. And, but still like, intimate enough. You really get to know people and you get to like break off and have intimate conversations and really like establish some lifelong relationships. We have people who have come to events over the years that are, in each other's weddings, or we don't have like a wedding yet. We have not actually facilitated that, but I'm holding, maybe this is the year that we bring in the couple who gets married. But yeah, it's really, it's just like this incredible opportunity for people to just come and meet, like-minded individuals or people that they would think they would have never connected with otherwise. It's like we have engineers and artists and musicians and poets and just like all kinds of different facets of life. And I think that's one of the things we really try to do is keep an open door to all types and not just be like, oh, you have to be a plant medicine person or you have to be a yogi or you have to be, you have to fit in one of these categories to belong. We're like, no, if you're awesome, you belong.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are waiting for that thing that like, oh, I need to go to the thing that is who I am.
Yeah.
And an event like that probably will help people break out of whatever stuckness they might be experiencing.
Yeah. I mean, isn't this what Burning Man has shown us time and time again? Like, there's so many different types of people from all walks of life. And you meet so many incredible people that you would have otherwise not maybe run into or maybe not realized were, had that kind of creativity or were that open-hearted or whatever it is. And I think that's the part of B-Fest that we really tried to pull from Burning Man was like, there is no type. You can be part of this community if you're called to it and you want to, actively participate and come enjoy yourself and have an experience. And I just think that's like refreshing, you don't, there's not even an age category. We've had people in their 60s and 70s come or down to, I think our youngest was 17. And this year, actually, we're opening up to families and kids because there's an incredible kids camp on property. So like people can even bring their kids and they have this incredible like Waldorf experience for the kids on property. So we're just like, let's open this thing up. Let's just really start to build a big open-armed feel and let whoever wants to opt into it.
I like that.
Yeah.
My fiance and I are planning on children.
Yes.
Soon.
Congrats.
And thanks. And that's one of the concerns is like, okay, does the party have to stop? Maybe for a little bit. Probably want it to stop for
9 months at least.
That's what I hear.
It's a good timeline. Yeah, I think, it's interesting because we'd never had a location before that could facilitate kids in such a meaningful way. And so we hadn't had it open to children before this year because we just honestly didn't have the bandwidth to facilitate that. And then when we chose this property, they have an incredible kids program that, any kid would be super stoked. And then obviously they can also participate in parts of our event as well. But it's not like if you come, and you're a parent and maybe you want to take one of the workshops or do something without your child, you have support to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other type of events are you doing?
So I teach Kundalini Yoga. So that's a big part of it. I've really, really fallen in love with that practice. And I feel like it's so powerful and beautiful, especially for people out there who've done a lot of plant medicine and, are seekers, but maybe don't, necessarily want to depend on another extraneous component to bring them to those states. Kundalini Yoga can really bring you in. It works on the pineal gland, so you can actively release your own DMT and you can have a deep and meaningful experience from literally getting high on your own supply. So there'll be lots of Kundalini Yoga. Eben Britton, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's an ex-NFL player. He's going to be doing breath work and yoga as well. Then we'll have DJ Drez and Marty, who I mentioned earlier. She teaches yoga and he'll be doing live DJ sets. And then we also have this incredible facilitator. His name's Chris Crawford, who will be doing some it's movement and breath work, but it's this really unique format that I've never heard of or experienced. So I'm looking forward to it as well. So
Oh, you haven't done it yet?
I haven't done it yet. Yeah, I just heard about it
Okay.
and we were like, bring him. We need him here.
That's the kind of stuff that gets me at one of these places. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what it is, but it's supposed to be
Yes.
next level. I'm like, all right, I gotta try it
We
out.
got to try it. Yeah. And that's exactly how I felt. I was like, whatever he's doing, I kind of don't understand. So obviously I need it.
Yeah.
So then obviously and then the other cool thing about this is that Palmaya, the resort where we're hosting it, they have native programming at the actual location. So there's like art classes, there's music therapy, there's like gong sessions, there's like different dance, like different movement therapies. And there's all kinds of stuff there that like you can also just a la carte opt into if you don't even, if you're not feeling called to like one of the things that we're personally doing through the B-Fest model.
Yeah.
You've got all this like kind of backup stuff that you can also opt into. So it's like whatever you want to do, whether it be physical, emotional, spiritual, sound, breathing, all of the above, it's all there.
I like that.
Yeah.
I usually when I show up to a retreat, if they pack the schedule with a bunch of like required stuff,
Never.
I'm like,
Never.
I think that's good for some people.
Yeah.
Like, but I think over time,
Yeah.
that space become incredibly valuable.
Yeah, we try to really pack the morning and the afternoon with options, and everything is optional. Nothing's ever required. And people actually always remark that they love that so much because they never feel pressured to do it all. But in the middle of the day, we always leave a 3-hour gap that's completely unscheduled, and that it's really like just time maybe to go to get a massage or go jump in the ocean. But we will have live DJ sets going on during that time. So like if you just want to relax by the pool and listen to music and just have like a nice, a chill session in
What's the date on this? I remember looking at it. But now
April 26th through 30th.
you're really selling me
I know.
on this.
It's honestly, I'm not kidding. Like I've been to all the events. Like I'm an event person. Like that's my job. That's my career, is to really go and suss out all of these experiences. And B-Fest, there's just something super magical and special about it. And if you are you feeling the thing I explained earlier where you're like, uh-oh, I think I'm supposed to be there.
I gotta go.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. You have a feeling, and it's just, I mean, there's not really a way to describe it until you're there. And I was just saying, I was at Cal Callahan's before this, and him and Peyton came last year, and they were kind of in the same spot. They're like, we don't really know what this is or whatever. They came and they were like, oh my God, like you can't explain this. It's
Nice.
It's kind of like Burning Man in that way where you're like, you just have to go. Like,
Nice.
I don't know what to tell you.
Nice.
Yeah.
I imagine a lot of my listeners don't know very much about Kundalini.
Yeah.
Can you break it down? I have some friends that are way into it and go to 10-day retreats where it's just all day, it seems. I don't know. I've never been. I participated in some sessions, but not really dug in. So yeah, give us a breakdown on it.
It's interesting because I really feel like for those who are psychonauts or those who've experimented in any of those, those worlds, Kundalini is like another lineage, another access point into all of those higher states of consciousness. So instead of, drinking ayahuasca or, imbibing on something else, it's like you're actually activating those those wisdom codes within you, and you're finding your own kind of internal guidance into those states. And I think that's why I love it so much, is that I don't have to wait until I'm going to go to a ceremony, or I don't have to wait until, I have this opportunity to go elicit that experience for myself. It's something I can create every single day devotionally in my life. And I think that just elevates your consciousness and just, brings the baseline a lot higher. So the actual technology, it consists of breath work, pranayama, meditation, mantra using the sound codes, mudra, which is, the different hand positions and different arm positions, and then the actual asana, the physical practice. And so they're a combination of all of those things which form what we call a kriya. And within these kriyas, you're really able to awaken this Kundalini energy, or this this energy that sits coiled at the base of the spine. And as you start to learn how to elicit this Kundalini frequency, you start running it up the spine and through the chakra system. And you really start reaching different levels, different states of vibration. And from that expression and from that experience, you really start to tap into different dimensions of yourself and different dimensions of reality, to be honest. So that's kind of like the container it all lives in. And then you decide what you want to do with it. And that's what I love about Kundalini Yoga. It's a path to liberation. So ultimately, it's a way that you can be liberated from karma. It's a way that you can be liberated from the samskaras and the pressures of whatever you've created in this lifetime or past. But you get to decide. You get to decide what you want it to mean to you, how you want to work with it, and you get to watch what things show up in your life. And really just be a spectator and a witness to like what is actually truly happening for you.
Yeah. How long does it take to drop into that space? You know, if someone's beginning as one of the one of those things where like, I went to my first session, I didn't really notice anything or.
Yeah. Well, here's two things I'll say. The first is that it's really important that you practice with a teacher who has a strong connection to the lineage. And by that, I mean that they actually uplink into what we call the golden chain. And it's in Kundalini, much like ayahuasca or, you know, any of these methodologies, there's a lineage. And if you're not carrying the lineage powerfully, you meaning the teacher, your student, the person in the room, might not elicit as powerful of an experience. And so I think it's really important that you find teachers that really, really feel connected to the lineage, feel connected to the teachers, and really make an effort to make sure that line is established. So that's the first thing I would say. And then the second thing I would say is that, you know, some people come in and they have the most profound life-changing experience their very first time.
Yeah.
And it takes them 10 minutes to drop in. Some people, you know, it might take them a commitment of trying it for 30 or 40 days and like just, you know, having a residual practice that they can start to compare and contrast. But, you know, as teachers, our goal is to always help you get there, get an experience kind of as quickly as possible so that you actually have some buy-in to keep trying it and then see if, you know, if you can create a relationship with it.
What's like a typical session duration?
So like an hour and 15 minutes is a very common duration. You can certainly do 20 minutes. You can do 10 minutes. I mean, if you do something like breath of fire, which is just like a powerful inhale and exhale, like when you're just powerfully inhaling in a like that you know, that specific pace in and out, like a matched pace. I mean, you could elicit a Kundalini rising in like 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of depends on what you're engaging with, but it's not necessarily like a time commitment. It's just like, what's the practice? What's the lineage? And what are you open to receiving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do a lot of yoga, mostly vinyasa.
Nice.
And yeah, from what I understand, it's just very different. Like,
it's very different.
Because in vinyasa, it's just lots of poses, lots of movement.
Yeah.
And this sound, the little bit of Kundalini I've done, I think I've done like, I haven't done pure.
Okay. Yeah.
Kundalini. And
yes.
I was told that. They're like, this is not, like, we're mixing in like 3 different versions. And there was somebody up in Northern California that was really good. But they were mixing in different things, and they were like, yeah, this isn't a pure thing. And I think we had like a 3 or 4 hour session a couple times,
nice,
which was very incredible. Very, very incredible.
Yeah. And so this is really common with Kundalini yoga. A lot of people are blending them with other, you know, modalities or other types of yoga. I teach very strictly Kundalini yoga, and I'm very much connected to that golden chain and really giving the teachings very specifically the way that they were given from the master teachers. So it's just a different, and you know, there's nothing right or wrong. It's just like the identifying that and then, you know, deciding like, oh, I can tell when I do something that's in the pure lineage, I have this effect. And then when I do something that's a blend, I have this effect. And then just, you know, distinguishing for yourself what you connect with.
Yeah, that's how I like to approach any type of psychedelics is I like to try them separate from each other before I try them together. So I know what what's doing what.
For
Get to know
sure.
a little better. So I already screwed up the Kundalini.
No, but I mean, this is the beautiful thing is that, well, when you come to B-Fest, you'll get to try it. You'll get to try it. No, and I think it's really important, like you said, to have a specific experience. So it's almost like you know what shelf to put it on. You're like, oh, when I do that, this is the experience I have. And a lot of people who do have a lot of experience with psychedelics, it's actually very easy when they get into the pure stream of Kundalini Yoga to have very meaningful psychedelic experiences. And if I'm being completely honest, that's why I love it so much, because I'm just like, I it's like I'm like kind of a psychonaut at heart. I love that altered state of consciousness. I love, just like playing in the ether. And so for me, when I found Kundalini Yoga, I was like, oh my God, like this is amazing. And I don't need anything to get me there. Like I can actually create it for myself, and which is really nice because maybe you have to go to work that day, or maybe you don't have 6 to 8 hours, have a long journey. So it was really nice to like have that ability to, tap in and like give myself a little dose and then go about my day.
Yeah, I'm doing an experiment right now with. I'm going to start this weekend. My friend already started the protocol with Amanita muscaria, which is a specific type of mushroom.
Yep.
That is, you have to build up a tolerance.
That's
to it.
the red one, right?
Yeah, it's like the red one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if you eat it raw, you're gonna be poisoned.
Yeah, right.
So you have to cook it down a very specific way, very gently, and then you have to build up your tolerance over weeks before you can get a big dose. Yeah, I don't know why I brought that up.
That's exciting.
That's the latest experiment.
That's exciting. I think I watched, what's the guy who has the show on Vice where he does all the different, he goes and tests all the different, pharmacology or like some
pharmacopoeia.
It's, Hamilton's pharmacopoeia. Yeah, good job. Way to pull that one in. I was like beaming into your third eye. Like I know you have this in there. But I watched the episode on that, and it looked really incredible. Like there's definitely a deep level of intelligence in that particular stream.
I'm looking forward to getting into that. What is I've studied quite a bit of yoga philosophy, and I realized that there's the different types of yoga. Yeah. And where did Kundalini originate? Like, where was that? How did that particular guru figure this out and branch off?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of a mystery, right? Because a lot of these different disciplines were passed down from teacher to student. And so there's debate if Kundalini is 5,000 years old, 50,000 years old. Okay, so
it's one of the older.
Well,
because some things you can go back to 2,000 or 3,000. You go, okay, this is pretty definitive.
Exactly. Yeah, and you have texts that really, establish that, that initiation point. But with Kundalini Yoga, the story goes that it was kept very secret for a long time, and that it was really only for like the priests and priestesses, so to speak, of the communities, because it was, such an elevated technology, such an elevated frequency. And so it was kind of coveted and kind of kept from commoners for a long time. And so, we don't really know how long that went on, how long it was shrouded in secrecy, but they do say that it was really just like, the cave yogis and the ancient rishis and that were just meditating up in the mountains that pulled these codes down, that pulled these teachings down. And the other thing I teach is the Akashic records. And so I don't know if you know about the Akashic records, but they say that potentially these teachings were in the Akashic records, and these yogis were accessing that plane and pulling in these, these codes, or extraterrestrial off-planet species who had these technologies as well, and they were just able to align and kind of channel the teachings in. So that's kind of the backstory, and it's it's a little scratchy at best, so we don't really know. But the man who brought Kundalini to the West was a man by the name of Yogi Bhajan, and he came in the late 70s, or actually I think he came in 1969, and he he came in really like the big LSD era. So a lot of his work in the beginning was trying to actually bring some of these people who just really kind of lost the plot a bit from too much drug use. He kind of tried to help calibrate them back in and use the yogic wisdom to really, give them that sense of connection to the divine, but also bring them back into this field of consciousness a bit more. So he's a he is like, he's obviously an incredible person because, a lot of the teachers didn't want the teachings brought to the West, and he kind of, bucked the system and came and started teaching to Westerners. So he's a character that there's a lot of controversy around, and there's a lot of backstory around, but he's the one who brought the teachings. So for him, we're grateful, and that's how we have them here today.
Yeah. Yeah. I had this moment. I was in France in, 2018? And I checked out Notre Dame, and I was inside and I was looking around at the jewelry and the art and the architecture and the statues. And I was thinking, this is incredibly psychedelic.
Yeah.
Incredibly psychedelic. So I left and I went back to my Airbnb. I booked a tour for the next day. And then the next day I showed up, I dropped acid, and I got lucky because the tour we signed up for, I was the only one there.
Oh my God.
So I had a one-on-one tour with a guy,
Wow.
and he halfway through the tour, he realized that he could tell me anything.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I don't say most of this stuff because it would be really offensive to people who are Catholic and things like, because that church was built over like a 900-year period.
Mm-hmm.
And there was depending on who was ruling the area, they decided, what, if you look at the architecture and stuff, there's stuff from Egypt and all sorts of stuff that's buried in there that they don't really publicly talk about too much because they don't want to freak people out.
Yep.
They don't want to make them doubt their faith in any way.
Right.
And when I was there, I really got a picture of these monks inside this dark church and chanting and basically meditating and praying. And I go, oh, these people this is why all this art exists. This is why the jewelry looks the way it does, is these people were having these mystical experiences, and they would get some type of answer, and they come out to the people and they go, oh, this is how we should be living, right? But we should probably do a little less of this, a little more of that. And the average person, the way I see it, is just didn't have the time to have those mystical experiences.
Right.
And through that experience and looking at that, I started seeing the value in religion. I started seeing, not because I think psychedelics have brought a lot of mystical experiences to people who would have not ever really found it on their own, and maybe don't have all the foundation necessary. Kind of like back in the 60s, everyone's dropping acid, they lose the plot, and they need some type of structure.
Yes.
I think the true mystics that can have that divine connection without a lot of structure and even create some of their own structure. I think that's incredibly rare. I don't see that very often in the spiritual community. I actually do notice there seems to be a bit of ungroundedness. And I think that going into a practice like Kundalini or something like that, where there is this really solid, millennia plus structure that exists there, it can lighten your load quite a bit. Because I've found myself, it's like, oh, okay, I got it all figured out, and then it all crumbles again. And I go, all right,
gotta figure it out again.
Yeah, and I watch some people who do have, they hit those points and then they end up adopting something, a religion, or that they pick up yoga, or they pick up something that has a lot of structure. And I used to think it was so silly, but now I see it as incredibly helpful.
I think, yeah. And it comes down to one of my favorite words, which is devotion. Because I think a lot of people find that when they have a more structured practice, they actually make time for it. And then they can be in a more devotional experience of their life. And so I think that that's probably one of the reasons people do like that, is that if they don't have the structure, they don't necessarily have as much time of devotional practice. And I think that that's incredibly helpful. And it's something I wish for everybody. I wish for everybody to have a deep devotional practice, whether that's an hour a day or it's even just 5 minutes of like, you doing your morning pages or whatever it is. It's so important to have something every single day that some amount of time that you set aside to be in devotion to your spirit and into your soul. I think it's just such a powerful, powerful thing to activate into and to really adopt into your life.
Yeah. So what do you think about people who are maybe listening and feel like they're floating around?
Oh, well, it's very interesting because we love to talk about being grounded, right? It's interesting because in the Kundalini practices, we actually talk about not necessarily being grounded, but just being able to handle where you are, being able to handle the energy that you're in. And so I think that it's good for people. There's nothing wrong with grounding, and I don't want to say like that's a bad thing or whatever, but I think what ends up happening is that people sometimes feel ungrounded and then they think this is bad. I'm like,
It's not okay.
Something's wrong. I need to do whatever I can to get grounded and to like tether this energy back into the earth. And it's great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there's anything wrong about being grounded, but oftentimes when we reach a higher, we access into the higher chakra system, we are literally moving up the energy field. And so we are less in the lower dimension. We're less in the lower triangle. And so people often mistaken that as a bad thing. And this is one of the reasons I love Kundalini Yoga, is that it actually gets you used to being really powerful in the upper levels of self and the upper levels of energy. And I think that this is something that people don't hear very often. We think that grounding is the solution for all energy things. And actually, it's more about integration. It's more about being able to hold the frequency and the current that you're in and being able to manipulate and maneuver in the way that's helpful and beneficial. So people that are out there floating around right now, I would just say, like, can you handle it? Like, are you good with it? Is it a problem? And if it's a problem, then I would say, okay, well, then you need some practices that help you to hold the amount of frequency that's in your field, which is, upper chakra energy. And then that, that becomes your choice. What practices help you do that? That becomes your own personal little journey. But I think it's helpful to know that, like, grounding is one modality, and it's great and it's awesome, but it's not the only way to be able to handle your energy. And particularly if you're someone who does feel that more airy, open, kind of floating feeling about your life.
Yeah, I like that. I like being okay with where you're at.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people are out there and not okay with it. I think those are the people where you go, oh, they may need some grounding because they just don't know how to be with this, and their life is a little too chaotic, maybe.
Yeah, sometimes we just jump into these energy fields that we're not prepared to hold. And that's a lot of how I think of these things, is that it's not necessarily good, bad, or anything else. They're just different levels of frequency. And just like you're not going to go into the gym and lift 1,000 pounds on your first deadlift, like, you have to actually train your energy field to be able to hold certain frequencies. And if you haven't done the appropriate training, and this is exactly back to your point of, all the LSD era, or people who have maybe gone to levels of dimensionality that they didn't actually attain. They skipped ahead in line.
Right.
Then that's where you have to say, okay, well, you need to come back and integrate some of that stuff before you move forward into those spaces, because you're just not prepared for it.
Yeah. Ken Wilber, I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
I'm not.
He has a map for stages of development of consciousness.
Okay.
And one of the things he talks about is, you can go visit these higher states but a stage is something that's been stabilized. So you're going through stages of development, and it starts at the root and you work your way up. And if you skip ahead, you're going to be brought back down. And there's I think through a lot of experiences, people can just skip to the end type of thing, and then when they come back out of that experience, then there's almost like a additional angst because they know where they want to go, but they have no idea how to get there.
Yeah.
And it can, and then again, it's like being at a lower level, but not being okay with it, or knowing how to stabilize where you're at so that you can then go to the next level.
Oh, it's such a good point. Yeah, it's so destabilizing when you're like, but I saw the light. I want to go back to the light. And it's like, well, actually you have to actually get back down to the level that you have worked for the attainment, and then start building your way up. And this is, again, why I think Kundalini Yoga is such a special practice, is it actually gives you very, very precise tools to build into that attainment. And so that when you actually do get to the next level, whether you want to say that's your next chakra or your next, experience of life, you're ready to hold it. And really, honestly, like a lot of people are in this plant medicine era and this psychedelic era. It's so beautiful because we're having these enlightened episodes, but a lot of people are having huge backlash. And this is why people talk all the time about how important integration is. Another way to say that is that you have to go back and like wire the attainment so that it's, like you said, the stage is set. It's solidified.
I was talking to somebody yesterday who he's doing a series of, I don't know, one of the more unique experiences. And they record your voice. You're expected to talk during the experience. They encourage it. And, not all of it makes any sense. Sounds like a different language, right?
Yeah.
And, but they require that you transcribe the entire audio from your 4-hour session before you can do another one.
Wow.
So that's one way to stabilize. If you were to sit down and hand write your experience from a recording,
I love that.
That sounds pretty that sounds like a good integration practice to me.
Yeah, and especially because I love sound current. I think working with sound current, and in particular your own sound current, is highly enlightening to really, really tune into the sound of your own voice, the way you say things, what comes out, how you structure it. That's all very informative to the psyche. So I could see that, actually making a dedicated practice of listening into your sound current and transcribing it would be a very sophisticated way of kind of confirming what came through. I love that.
And in your practice, you're doing a lot of chanting, singing.
Yeah, so we work with mantra a lot, and the idea of mantra is that they're these sacred sound currents that carry different technology, different wisdom. And so a massive part of Kundalini Yoga is working with specific mantras. And, some are specific to like healing or emergencies. Some are, more multi-purpose where it's just like, I want to be protected in my life and what I'm doing. But the beautiful thing is that, we're always bringing in some kind of mantra with the practice so that the teachings are being, like you're just talking about, they're almost being solidified or shored up with the sound current. And I think it's just, it's one of the most unique things about Kundalini Yoga is how important the mantras are. And even, they say if you can't do any practice, if you can just listen to the mantra, you'll get like 90% of the benefit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just from listening to
Just from listening, just from having the sound current in your aura. And so in our house, we have small little speakers that are like, for audience members, they're like maybe 2 inches by 2 inches. They're all over our house. In every single room. In some rooms, there's 2 or 3 of them, and they're playing mantras at a very, very low level. And so the sound current is constantly being injected into the space so that the very vibratory field of the home is holding these super high level sound currents.
Yeah, these aren't in English.
No, they're not in English. They're in Gurmukhi, yeah, which is
Say that again.
It's called Gurmukhi, and
Gurmukhi?
it's like it's Punjabi, or it's similar to Sanskrit, but just like a slightly different dialect. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a session once and with some people, it was their first time, and they were concerned when they left. They go, I don't know what I was saying. Like they were afraid that maybe they got tricked into like some type of spell by the person running it. They're like, oh, I don't know if I trust the person running it. And they got me saying mantras I don't understand. And like, what's the intention here? Kind of people got weirded out.
Well, so have you heard of light language? Are you familiar with this term?
Yeah.
So, I mean, light language, the idea is that there's sound codes that are maybe being given from other species or other, levels of intelligence. And if you start to tune into those sound currents, you'll sometimes start speaking, and it'll sound like you're speaking in tongue or whatever is something we'd be familiar with. They're sounds and noises that you don't even know you know how to make. But a lot of people believe that is literally like current, and energy that maybe needs to come in and work on your cells or work on your psyche. It's being deposited into the places that you need it the most. But I can see why it would be very concerning, because you're like, why is this happening? And I think it's really important actually that people stay very, very in tune to if they feel good about this experience or not, because that's probably the best gauge of like, are these codes actually good for you or not?
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of, there's so many mysteries out there, and we're in the age of Aquarius. So the age of Aquarius is where we have access to like all information. And with that comes a high level of discernment that's needed, because when we're just being, broadcast all these different information bodies or even mystical teachings, sometimes we don't really know if we're ready for them or if they're for us, or if or if it's actually good or bad or all of the above. And you have to actually really turn up your discernment by feeling intuitively like, what's going on here? Is this good for me, or should I opt out?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you're spot on, because I remember, when I first started on my journey, it was a decade ago when I started on this journey, and in the beginning it was like, oh, all there was plant medicine.
Right.
That's all I really knew.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, cool. That's just the route I'm going. And then as I attend more events and meet more people, and I start running into all these other like mystery schools, and I go, oh, I could study, this, or I could study this, just in yoga alone, you could study so many different variations.
100%. Yeah.
I like Qigong as well. And, and there's these different breathwork practices, and, it is very, difficult to discern. And, I had a friend who's a few years younger than me recently. He went and had some pretty wild experiences that are that I've never done. They're just outside, and I'm 41 now. So like he's like, and Ashley looks at me and goes, "Are you interested in doing what he did?" I was like, "No." No.
Well, this is actually really important, because there's a cornucopia of experience out there, right? But
there's so much.
But one of the things one of my teachers, Hari Jivan, says is, you can go around the backyard looking for gold, and you can dig a 1-foot hole 50 times in your backyard, or you can actually commit to one hole, and you can really excavate it with the intention of really finding the jewels at the bottom of that experience. And I do think this is something important to think about in this current time, where, like I said, we're in the age of Aquarius. We've got all the information, all the experience. It's like you can go a million different directions. If you really want to have attainment in something, it is helpful at some point to really, really pick a medicine, pick a path, and really go the distance with it. And that's how you're really going to, actually integrate, actually have the true attainment of that modality.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you're talking about tuning in and being discerning.
Yeah.
I like to like taste everything, but also go deep with, taste it and see, do I need to go deep here?
Exactly. And I think that that's really important, right? You have to kind of get a feel for what you're attracted to. But I think there's also like a distraction energy that comes in where people start something and they go semi deep with it and then they get distracted and go into something else. And I think that that's just like a lot of phonetic energy that is in the space right now that can actually pull you out of an opportunity to really, really go deep and have a meaningful experience in one modality.
Yeah, I saw this happen in fitness. So previous life, fitness world.
Yes.
And one of the things that frustrated me, I was a strength and conditioning coach.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that frustrated me is people were we call it program hopping.
Yeah.
They would do one type of workout for a month, and then the next month they do a different kind, or maybe they'd be combining two different types of training programs.
Yep.
And I go, oh, you're gonna get hurt. And that didn't exist 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So before the internet.
Yeah.
You found a coach and you trained with that
Maybe
coach.
Jay Ferrugia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you found the coach and you trained with that coach and you did their thing and you got your result and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost as if it was a secret, right?
Yeah.
And so it sounds very, similar in a lot of ways. It's like very secretive about how we do things. You got to come to the gym in order to get the codes.
Yeah.
So, but then, by 2010, CrossFit comes along and like ruins everything.
Yeah.
Because it is like a buffet of everything.
Yeah.
Like they just combined a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And which I was involved in that. But
Yes, I was too. Yeah.
Yeah.
We could go deep on it. Yeah.
But it's like so many similarities. And I knew as somebody who is an expert in that field, if you just picked one thing, it almost didn't matter
Yes.
which one you did.
Right.
But if you picked one thing and you went with it, you were gonna get the best results possible. And not a month, not 2 months, probably like 2-3 years.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I totally relate to that. And I think, I was Rob Wolf's one of his clients back in
really?
the day. So we grew up in the NorCal Strength and Conditioning, CrossFit, then NorCal Strength and Conditioning. It was back and forth for a few years there. So
when Rob was running it.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So and this was back in the day when it was like still in a very small little like garage-esque gym. So I totally feel you. And I remember in the beginning it was like, let's actually be really intelligent about the training. Let's do the least amount of effort to elicit the most, the best results. Right. And then CrossFit just became this like, let's actually try to kill you. And if you survive,
it's true.
You might get a sponsorship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
we'll give you free product.
Exactly. All the Reebok you could ever want. Yeah. So, I mean, I totally agree. And I think that was always Rob's, that was always his pet peeve. He was just like, it's all about consistency over time. Like, just get in here, do the thing day in and day out, do your recovery, Then Kelly Starrett came on the scene and we, brought in the whole mobility world. And like, it was just very simple in the beginning. Yeah. And then it became like, okay, I don't recognize this world anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I not that we're going off in a different tangent. That's okay.
Yeah, it's
but
all good.
I think Dave Castro got a hold of the CrossFit Games and just made it buds.
Yeah.
Made it SEAL training. Is like because that particular training is really there to weed out people who can't push through and all that. It's not necessarily a test of fitness. So I think he brought so much more of the mental toughness side in, and it's detrimental to your body. Like the best tests of mental toughness through physicality will destroy your body.
Yeah, you're like, and then there's rhabdo, and
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think that, but it kind of tying this back into the initial context, it's so true that we take these things that can be so pure and so true and can take us the distance, but it's really, really easy to get off track, and it's really easy to get pulled into different ideologies or even just, people's ideas that like their motivations are just so vastly different than what yours is, but you get pulled into it for whatever reason. And then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, wait a minute, I started over there.
I didn't even want to do this.
I didn't even want to do this. Like, I don't want to be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah. People man. Yeah. I mean, I think it's become more and more apparent as time has gone on is people going along with the crowd.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, this is what everyone's doing, and you're just gonna do it, and people aren't questioning, and it happens in every community.
It does, yeah. And when, we talk a lot about like Earth being a polarity experience, and so the idea of polarity is that you're always being pulled one direction or the other, and it takes a sophisticated consciousness to actually recognize that and then decide where they want to be in that continuum. And I think, this is a yoga practice you're probably familiar with, is being in the neutral mind or being in the neutral current, because it is so easy right now on planet Earth, particularly, to just get polarized into these different places that you're like, how the heck did I end up in this room?
Totally.
And, and you see it in every place. It's like every single scenario has this dynamic, functioning in it. So it's like it takes a lot of sophistication to notice it and then be like, I am going to actually pull myself out of this and decide where I want to be in this.
Yeah, there's I'm rereading The Untethered Soul right now.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And I reread it every 2 or 3 years when I need the reminder.
Beautiful.
I go, oh, I'm feeling a little sucked into things. I need to detach a little bit. And what's funny is I would say, it's been about 6 weeks. I've just been doing like lots of yoga, reading Michael Singer's books, and really putting a lot of attention into, sitting in the observer seat. And I've been doing a really good job. Like I've gotten really light. Things are easy. Even though things in life aren't working out exactly the way that I would want them to, it's okay. I'm comfortable where I'm at. It's great. And then yesterday, I got a series. I'm in a text message. Everyone's in a text message thread. Everyone has their text message thread. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, totally.
Everyone started freaking about this one thing. And I was like, and normally, like, I can be in that group where people are freaking out regularly. And I'm like, okay. They're just scared, whatever.
Yeah.
And then something happened that directly impacted me. And I started to freak out. And I let the energy, I got sucked into the energy of it. And the next thing I know, I've triggered my fiance. Now she's in a whole different, like, she was doing pretty good, and then my energy went off, and then it threw her energy off, and then it took, till today, get a night's sleep, get some rest, become resourced, and go. I mean, even by last night, we were like, yeah, we were both being a little silly. Like life's pretty good. Like we don't need to worry about that. It's not at our doorstep right now. So it was, it's interesting that the practice is. Being able to sit in that observer seat, even when shit's going down. That's when you need it, not when things are easy.
I mean, it's the most important thing. And the fact that you even know to do that, that's the thing, is some people don't even realize this dynamic is playing out day in and day out in their lives. And so they're just being ping-ponged around from, one corner to the next. And it's just exactly like you've got to be able to just kind of push back and observe it. And then remember, we're just in Earth school and it's all just a game anyway.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that happened to me for a couple of weeks ago, I got deeper into the meditation and all that. And I was like, open up my Instagram account. And I just started unfollowing a lot. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I think I could look at this and it's not going to disturb me, but it's also... I think I was only looking at it because it was disturbing me. Like I'm addicted to the disturbance in a lot of ways.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's actually, if you think about our world right now, how many Instagrams are there? Like, it's like that when you can identify and you can say like, oh, I actually notice what's happening and I'm going to select out of this. But like that scenario is happening all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just so important to notice it and recognize it. I mean, it can be happening in friendship circles or conversations with your family. And just, we have to be able to build the resilience and the capacity to actually recognize all of those little Instagrams that are playing out in our life. And I think if we take the time to build that resilience and build that capacity, we just become such like more beautiful, more joyous, more graceful humans.
Yeah. And I think we need events like what you're doing to give us the space
Yes.
to you go and do a retreat. You know, like whether you do Vanessa's retreat or not, do some type of retreat where you get that space, find yourself, and then reinsert yourself back into society, and then navigate from there. Like you got to know where home base is.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really good for that. I think what you're doing is really cool. I think the integration is sounds like it's ideal to have a peak experience and be able to integrate it with community there, and then come back home and further integrate with your community at home and all that.
Yeah, and honestly, you meet people that like you potentially could be lifelong friends. And so I think it's really important if, like we were just talking about, you look at your Instagram, i.e. your life, and you don't like the pictures that are showing up, you have to go put yourself in a different room where there's new pictures to look at.
Yeah.
You have to go, put yourself in places where new conversations are happening, where different kinds of joy is existing, and opt into those things. And I think that the one thing that happened out of the 2020 era is that, we all became a bit more reclusive in nature, and so we're having to unwind that and make a little bit more effort now to go insert ourselves into these spaces. And so I think that's a really important thing for people to witness about themselves is like, I maybe just want to Netflix and chill. I maybe, just don't want to make that extra effort. But like in order to really start having these different opportunities and, frequencies available to you, sometimes you got to go to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So much of what's going on is just from the field that we're in. So you just got to change the field and then bring some of that field back with you. I mean, that's how Burning Man was for me, is every year I come home, my normal day-to-day is more like Burning Man than before.
Yeah.
It's not like all of Burning Man came with me, but, pick up the vibration, bring it back, insert it into my home, into my clothes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I lived in Venice Beach before we moved to Jackson Hole. We were in Venice for 10 plus years.
Nice.
And I always loved coming home from Burning Man because it was like not that much different.
It's not that much different. I was living in Encinitas for the majority of my Burning Man experiences. In Austin, there's definitely weird spots here. There's a social club that I joined called Highbrow Lowbrow.
Oh, nice.
Have you heard of this? Dude, it's trippy.
What's the deal?
You walk in and you're like, oh, this structure belongs at Burning Man.
Okay.
It's a social club, and about 100 people. And
oh, nice. That's a nice number.
Got 24-hour access, and there's a lot of really cool stuff happening there. And they have like permanent DJ decks set up and speakers, and I could just go in and plug in and go if I wanted, and
amazing.
It's pretty cool. So that's an example of somebody went to Burning Man and said, oh, I'm gonna have a social club where I'm gonna and then most of the people at the club don't even barely know what Burning Man is, but they're loving it.
Yeah,
right?
But they can feel it.
They can feel it. Yeah.
Well, like that's exactly what you did then, right? You went and put yourself into those rooms, into those scenarios where more of that energy was present. And I think that the more we do that, the more it becomes available and the more other people want to do it. And I think it's a really exciting time for that. It's like it's really a powerful time to be activated and to be around others who are activated.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything you want to leave the listeners with before we go?
I think the big thing is just, tune into your energy. And if there's something that feels like a connection, reach out and just see, get in where you fit in. There's lots of stuff going on in our Be the Wellness World, which is our event company and the entity that creates B-Fest. There's a lot of stuff in my coaching world with the Kundalini Yoga and Akashic Records, and that all lives under Starseed Collective. And I just think that, it's such a beautiful time to just trust your gut and go to the places where you're called.
Yeah. So So where do they go? What's the website if they want to go to
So
this
if they want to
festival?
check out Bee Fest, you'll go to Bee the Wellness, and Bee is like a honeybee, so it's BEE, thewellness.com. And you can scroll through our events and you'll see Bee Fest Palmyra, and that'll have all the details. And you're going to have an awesome code for your peeps to offer them $500 off, which is like crazy.
Be on the lookout for in your email.
Yes.
I'll be sending an email about this. If you're not on my email list,
Oh, better get on
you
it.
screwed up. No, too bad. No,
You're paying $500 extra.
I'm pretty sure if you go to my Instagram account and click the link, there's an opportunity to get on the newsletter so you can get deals like this and be notified every time a podcast goes up.
Yeah. Be in the room, people. We just talked about this.
Yeah. Participate.
Yeah, participate. Thank you.
Yes.
So that's kind of the event side of it. And then starseed.collective is my IG handle. And that's really where like the Kundalini Yoga and the Akashic training and all of the things I do in the more esoteric vein of our life exist. And just feel free. I've got an Akashic certification coming up in the end of February. So if people, I don't know when this will come out, but if it comes out before then, it might be perfect timing.
Who's that for?
So it's really for anyone. The way that I think about the Akashic Records is that it's an umbrella that a lot of different modalities live under. So for instance, if you're interested in Reiki, or you're interested in sound therapy, or you're interested in, any of these like different disciplines, when you tap into the Akashic Records, you're really tapping into an access point for all of them. And so you can start working in these different modalities and really channeling in essentially the perfect kind of combination for you, or if you want to do it professionally and read for people for your client. And so it's really for people who have just an instinctive call towards the Akashic Records as a modality, but also are like, I'm not sure which modality I want to focus on. So this is a great place to start and get a feel for all these different rooms that you can be in, to use our analogy that we're going to go with here. And then that way, you can start to really work in them and then decide, maybe I want to go deeper in this vein, or maybe I really just love the Akashic Records and having access to all of it. But it's really for, people who are light workers, energy healers. I mean, if you identify with someone who's just trying to kind of raise the vibration and help out planet Earth, it's perfect for you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I loved it so much. Sat Nam.